One way to composite clips is to simply take a clip in a sequence that's above another clip and move that top clip kind of out of the way. And the most likely way that you would do that would be to use the fixed motion effect. That's the motion effect that you see inside the Effect Controls panel for every single clip that has any kind of visual information in it. But there are other motion type effects that you can use instead of motion. And sometimes the motion effect doesn't work the way you want it to do because by default it's the last effect that's applied in any group of effects. And sometimes being last doesn't necessarily work the way you want it to do. So you need to replace the motion effect with another effect, the transform effect, and I'll show you that in this lesson as well. So to follow along, go to Working Files, go to Projects, and then go on down to 1203 Motion Effects. We have 4 clips here, 3 video clips and a document. Now if you don't have access to these assets, you can use any video clips or still images that you want for the first part of this lesson, and then find some large document that you can use later in the lesson. Let's start off by making a new sequence simply by taking this time-lapse clip here and dragging it to the new item icon like that. That makes a new sequence. I'm going to click the / key to kind of spread things out a bit. I'm going to pull this down because we're not going to work with audio here at all. These clips don't have audio associated with them. Let's take time-lapse number 4 and put it on top now. And that's going to cover up that desert scene. Show you this bay there. And we'll put time-lapse 5 on top of that, and it'll cover up everything. It has this kind of lake view there with a sunset. What I want to do is I want to take this one on top, this scene here, and kind of move it out of the way. If I were to click on it to make it active and go to the Effect Controls panel, you'll see there's the motion effect. If I click on motion, then I can move this thing out of the way, and that's one way to see a clip below it. But I don't want to use the motion effect for that purpose in this lesson, so I'm going to do Controller Command Z to undo that. Instead, I want to use some other motion type effects. So to find them, I go to the Effects panel here. If I go over to Video Effects, there's a whole bunch of categories here. We'll take a look at Distort. Open that up. Pull this down a bit there. And there's Corner Pin. Corner Pin lets you expose parts of a clip by just pulling the corners in. So we'll work with that one first. I'm going to double click on it to apply it to time-lapse 5 because that's currently active. Just double click. There you go. Now we've applied it. And there's Corner Pin. When you see that little box like that, just as you do with motion, you know that there are going to be some targets there, some handles that you can grab to move things around. So I'm going to click on the effect to make it active, and there are those targets. They're little circles in this case. So I want to pull in the upper right and the lower right hand corners here. So like that. Take this one down here. Gives it kind of a perspective. It's kind of cool like that. And this thing can work like a little door. So I'm going to put that in motion. I'm going to animate that. So we're about, let's say, 3 seconds in, right there. I'll put keyframes for this position like that. That's upper right and lower right. So upper right, keyframe that. Lower right, keyframe that. I go back to the beginning, like so. I press reset here, and that'll put these guys back in neutral. And we'll add keyframes there because we changed the characteristics at a new time. Now you see these little lines there. That shows the motion path that these corners are going to take. Let's watch that. There you go, kind of swinging that open like that. That looks pretty slick. Now we can do the same for the clip below it. Let's say right when it gets to that point like that, we can take this clip number 4, and we can pull it in to reveal clip number 3, right? So let's apply the corner pin to this clip as well. So I just double click on it because this guy is currently active. Double click on it, there you go. And we're going to take this clip and move it in. So I'll make it active like so. And these 4 corner pins now apply not to this one, not to the lake there, but to this bay down here. Let me grab this guy and pull you in like so. And take you like so. There we go. So we'll do the same routine, except that I want them to come in later. So let's see how this thing works. So you take this first one. It finishes right about there. So that'll be the beginning of the move. But right now this is the end of the move. So I'm going to drag it a little bit farther in like that. Set keyframes for this time by going to the upper left, lower left, upper left, lower left. I'm going to go back now to where that first clip finished its move. Right about there. Then I'm going to take this clip, which is the one that's active, and reset the corner pin so that it pops this guy back out to full screen. Now let's see what happens. We got one on the left coming in, and then the one on the right that'll reveal the clip underneath it, like that. If I wanted to hold it there for a while and then finish the process, I could do that. I could take, let's say, these 2 keyframes here on this one on the right, for example. I could just drag, marquee select them like that. I could then do Controller Command C to copy them. I could do Controller Command V to paste them right here, which basically means we're holding this position from there to there, Controller Command V. Now we're holding this guy from one place to there like that. I can go farther in now, take this guy, it's currently active. I can drag these two targets all the way off screen. Now it's kind of tricky to drag these targets with this motion line there. So either drag away from the center, or you're just going to drag the motion line. So I'll go up here like that, and that should do it. Pull it off to one side like so. Take this one here and pull it off to one side like that. We could do the same for this other guy, but I think you get the picture here. Let's watch that now. Comes in, it'll hold for just a moment, and then it'll continue off the screen like that. So Corner Pin is a great way to put clips in motion, to composite clips. I'm going to delete the Corner Pin effects here on both of these guys. Click on you, delete you. Make you active, click on Corner Pin and press the delete key, and we're going to start all over again. Go back a little ways here so you can see that clip better. Now if you scroll down through Distort here, you're going to see that there's a transform effect here, which seems like it's in like the wrong place, because there's transform inside Distort, then here's the transform group down here, and transform's not in the transform group. A little odd. We're going to get to the transform effect later. Right now I want to go to perspective. Inside perspective there's something called Basic 3D. I'm going to put Basic 3D here on the top by just double clicking on it. What's cool about Basic 3D is that it has swivel and tilt. Swivel goes left to right like you're swiveling a chair, like so. And the tilt goes up and down like that. I'll reset it by clicking on this. What I want to do is have it behave sort of like what we just saw there with the Corner Pin. So I'm going to swivel it like so. I want it to swivel that way. And I want to also slide it off to the right. I'm going to take motion here. Now that we've got motion selected, I can just pull it off to the right like that. And we could, use keyframes now and call it a day, but I don't like the fact that it's cut off at the top and the bottom like that. I want to see the whole clip when it swivels off to the side. Well, you'd think then I could just kind of pull back on motion. I can go to motion, go to scale, and do that, but it actually cuts it off. See, it cuts it off on the top like that. A little behavior that happens because Basic 3D is applied before motion. Motion is always the last effect that's applied. But you can compensate for that by going back to Basic 3D and working with something called distance to image. Pull this thing back like that. There we go. So I'm going to take motion scale back to full scale, 100%. Click on that, type in 100. And now we've got this guy lined up, and now I need to take the motion position and slide it off to the right a little bit farther there. This is how it's going to look after we pull it off to one side. So what we need to do now is keyframe a whole bunch of things at this point. So the keyframe position here under motion, and go on down to Basic 3D and keyframe swivel and keyframe distance to image. And now we'll take everything back to the beginning and reset everything. So click reset for you, that puts you back flat like that, and reset motion so you're full screen again. Let's watch how that works now. Good, and you can see that we can swivel it more or less, have it stop for a while and have it go off screen later, things like that. The thing that's cool about Basic 3D is that it also has this feature called specular highlight. Right now it's turned off by default. It's kind of bright. I'll turn it on and you'll see it show up there. It shows up when you tilt to the right like that. You just play this so you can see it going across like that. You can't control the brightness when you put it directly on a clip like this. You could put it on an adjustment layer and then reduce the opacity, but this is applied to a clip directly like that. Alright, now I want to work with the crop effect. The crop effect is another way to, let's say, reduce the size of a clip and then reveal something below it inside the sequence. So to do that, I'm going to use that large document I referred to earlier. So I'm going to slide over a bit like this. I'll place that document here inside this sequence. Go back to the project, take this document and drag it to the sequence like so. And if you take a look at this versus the original document, I'll double click on it so you can see it in the source monitor. You see that there's the full document, and here we're seeing part of it. That's because the document itself is much larger than this HD sequence. I'll right click on the document and go to Properties. You'll see that it's 3896 by 2744, and the sequence is 1920 by 1080, so it's twice as wide and quite a bit taller as well. So what you're seeing is this inside part of it, the center 1920 by 1080 of the document. I want to find the part that I want to work with, so I'm going to make it active, go to Effect Controls, click on Motion and track down the part that I want to work with here, which is right about there, this old census document of my great-grandparents right there. You see it's at kind of an angle there, and this is going to be an issue when we work with the crop effect. So let's go find the crop effect, go to Effects, and let's just track it down by typing in crop, C-R-O-P, and there it is. Take a crop effect here and apply it to you. And you see it has that little target thing on it again, telling you that there are going to be some handles here when you click on it. I click on it and no handles, right? Can't see them. That's because they're at the edges of the original clip. So I need to change this from fit to something like 10%. And there they are. I want to crop down to this general area, so I'll kind of get it close to it like that. And bring this guy in like so. I can't even get to the one on top here, so I'll use the top figure here. I'll just drag it like that. I can open it up and use the little scroller there like that. Okay. Now we'll go back here to fit and we'll fine tune it. Take this guy and pull it to the right a bit like that. Something like that. Maybe pull it down. So you see how we're adjusting things. But now I want to twist it a little bit. I want to rotate it a bit. I also want to expand the view a little bit. So I'm going to take motion now. And I'll make it a little bit larger. So I'll go over here like this and scale it up a bit like that. And you see how it's kind of scaling away from the center, which is what you'd expect. The center of the clip, the anchor point, is way over here someplace. So we'll just take motion again, change the position by clicking on U and just kind of dragging here. Okay, so there, everything's working pretty well now. But I want to rotate it. So if I take rotate now, let's see what happens. It doesn't rotate within the crop, it rotates the entire clip, which is not what I want. I want to somehow rotate in the crop. The reason this is happening is because motion is the last effect that's applied. So you do this cropping work and then it rotates the cropped thing. It doesn't rotate within the crop. The way you overcome that is by applying the transform effect, which is just like the motion effect, except that you can apply it anywhere you want in the scheme of things or in the order of things. Let's close you down now. Close down crop for the time being and go find the transform effect. As I mentioned before, the transform effect is not inside the transform group. Put on the transform here, and it won't be inside the transform group. So where is it? Type in transform, and there it is under distort. So I'm going to double click on it to apply it to the document. Now I want to rotate it. Now notice where it's positioned right now. It's cropped and transform. I'm going to take a rotation here, rotate it, and the same thing happens. That's because it's out of order. It's being applied after crop. So you'd think that transform here would be first because it ought to be here, here, and there, but that's not how it works. Motion is last, but down here with effects that you add, the order goes from here to here, top to bottom. So I need to take transform and put it above crop like that. And now I can rotate it, and it'll rotate it before crop is applied. Inside the crop view like that. I think we've got that now. I can go back to crop now. Kind of fine tune the crop a little bit, like so. What I can do now is I can take this clip and put it up here in the second track. Take the original document, for example, put it below it. And I could take this one here like that, and I could pull it out of the one below it. I could take this one below it, let's say, put a motion and scale it down a little bit so it's not so huge. And then I could take this right here, this whole clip on top. I could pull it out, let's say, of that area and expand it to that view like that, and maybe drop the opacity in the one back there to just have it focused on this one. Take that one and just reduce the opacity a little bit so it's not so obvious, like that. And then you can have that guy show up on top of it like that. So there you go, multiple ways to use motion type effects to composite clips.